Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to look at pylint and what it is and how you can use it. What I've done is I've created a new project here in PyCharm and I'm going to show you some code that pylint would complain about. So I'm going to create a file called app.py and then we're going to do something like app is flask name. If name equals main, app.run. So you can see that there are a couple of mistakes in this code, I'm sure. First of all, we've got Flask here, but we haven't imported Flask at the top of the file. And we also forgot to put our colon after the if statement. So this is not valid Python code exactly, but PyCharm realizes that we probably wanted to write Python code because our file ends in .py. And therefore, instead of just saying, this is complete gibberish, it says you may have made a couple of mistakes. Of course, maybe we didn't make a couple of mistakes, and maybe this is another programming language that is very similar to Python that isn't actually Python, and this would be fine. But under the assumption that we are coding in Python, this has a couple of problems in it, which is that we've forgotten to import Flask, or rather, Flask is something that Python doesn't know what it is. It could be a variable. For example, we could, of course, define Flask here to be something else. And then it wouldn't complain about Flask not existing. It would complain about, you're calling this using the brackets, but this is a string, so it doesn't know what you're doing. So anyway, this is the current problem is that Flask is not defined. That means we've either forgotten to import it or we've forgotten to define it. And also there's a clear problem here, which is that we've forgotten a colon. And PyCharm tells you, you've forgotten a colon here. So PyCharm has a way, somehow, of determining that these two things here are problems, right? This is a computer program. As such, it must have some sort of other program or some code inside PyCharm that tells us that these two things are problems. And PyCharm has its own way of doing this, but there are more standard ways of doing this outside of PyCharm. There are ways of finding out problems within a file outside of PyCharm, and that's what a linter is for. A linter essentially goes through your file and applies a bunch of rules, and if any of your lines fail that rule, it says, there's a problem here. In this case, it would go through these files and it would say Flask is not defined. And then it would go through this one and say you're missing a colon there. So let's go ahead into a terminal and we're going to install the most popular linter in Python and we're going to run it through this file and we're going to see what it says. Let's open up a terminal just now. We've got a terminal here and the first thing we're going to do is we are going to navigate to the folder that contains our file that we've just written. So if you remember, we are going to do cd, and then we're going to type out the path that will take us to our folder. So in my case, that's in Dropbox, Teclado, Courses, Complete Python Course, Section 18, that's where we are now. And then we're in Video Code, Pylint, and End. So this is the path to my project. And notice how the project is called End. That's just for me to structure the code for the course a bit better. Then if we type ls or dir if you're in Windows, you'll see that you've got app.py in here. So this is where our file exists in our disk. You can, of course, navigate to this path using a visual or graphical explorer like Windows Explorer or Finder,